Hi, hello, loves. It is Wednesday, and that means it is why am I like this Wednesday? So let's dig into it. What I wanted to talk about is people pleasing. That's going to be like the primary focus, okay? I did my makeup. I do not want to cry, but I cannot guarantee it. And I say that because trying to understand myself better is a little emotional, like really emotional. And if you hear any noise in the background right now, that is the apartments that I live in. On the outside, these apartments look absolutely stunning. Underneath, like everybody else, there's a whole lot of shit. So we can't just get up and move, because out here now you have to make 3 or 4 times what your salary is in order to qualify, which is crazy. If my income was 4 times what it is right now, I wouldn't be in an apartment, okay? Let me go ahead and talk about my people-pleasing issues. The noise is gonna really bother me, and I hear my son's turtle. And I hear one of my kids opening and closing the door. So this is mom life. Normally I'm alone and I'm able to do this by myself, but one kid hurt themselves and my son has no school today, so there's that. Mom life. How things are out of our control and we really can't do anything about it. So, people pleasing. I struggle with being a people pleaser, and I think it started from when my mother used to leave me at different relatives' homes. I do not have a memory of it, but I do know that the way a child's brain works is you can have triggers and things that happen to you and still have them as you get older, and it becomes a part of you, but you weren't really aware that that's what it was that you were doing or why you were doing it, if that makes sense. So from when I could remember, that I can physically remember, is with my father, when he took me. And I don't remember having a time where I felt like I had to do everything that he wanted. I just remember feeling like I was walking on eggshells because I didn't really know him. My mom just let me go with a complete stranger that I hadn't seen in 5-6 years. So, or I hadn't seen him in like 3 or 4 years, but I don't think I had a memory of him because the last I saw him was when I was 2 years old. So I remember bits and pieces of us going to the grocery store, us doing things, and he was still in that grooming process. So I got everything I wanted. I don't remember ever being bad or misbehaving or not listening. I don't remember ever running into that. What I do remember is the day that he violated. No. See, I'm not sure what that's called. He took my innocence away. I don't know if violated me means that he had to do something to me, because he had me do something to him the very first time. So I'm not sure, but I do know that I remember being hesitant when he had me touch him, and I remember being uncomfortable, and I remember like grabbing it and just, you know, being like, and he just gave me this stern look. And I knew that he knew that I was uncomfortable, but I knew that he also knew that giving me that look meant that I needed to do it. Does that make sense? So from that day forward, I know that I would do everything that I needed to do to make my grandmother happy and in a good mood, so then she would let me sleep with her. And then she wouldn't let my dad take me out of her room when I would sleep with her. So that was always like, as long as you do whatever she wants, you're fine. Because then you can sleep with her in the room or fall asleep early and she's not going to take you out of the room. I will say there were a few times that I remember acting like I was falling asleep or acting like I was asleep. And then I woke up in his room. And I remember thinking, did he do anything while I was sleeping? Because I did eventually fall asleep from like fear. Sometimes when those things happen to you and it's with somebody that you're comfortable with and you should be comfortable with, that violation puts you in this. And I know this is why I have stomach issues. It's also been proven. I've done the research. I always felt sick to my stomach. Like I felt so sick and so uncomfortable that I would exhaust myself. And by exhausting myself, I would then fall asleep. But I don't remember being a heavy sleeper, but I also don't remember being a light sleeper. I just remember doing what I was told to do or expected to do in order to make others happy, so I could kind of gain something in it. So I guess in a way you gain something from it. And from there, I remember being with my grandmother, and because of what happened to me and we were in the process of going through court and testifying and all of that, when my grandmother started asking me how I was feeling and I started being honest with her, she would cry and apologize over and over and over again. So then I didn't like to see her cry, so I stopped telling her what she was asking me, what she wanted to know the answers to. And I did that because I didn't want to see her sad. And I think a part of me as a child, because nobody explained this to me, was, well, if I make you sad or unhappy, then you're not going to want me anymore. And am I going to go back with my dad? Or am I going to go back to a family that allowed my dad to do what he did to me? Or will I go to foster care? So I had all of this fear. And this is the thing. I think adults, one of the biggest mistakes that adults make is telling children that it's adult business. I think there's like a thin line between what would be considered adult business. So, example, my son knows that my father did something to me. He knows that he kidnapped me, and he knows that he did something really bad and he went to jail for 7 years. My son does not know the specifics and the extent of what was done to me. I don't feel that he is the age to know what happened to me, and I'm not sure around what age he will be. I just know that when he was in therapy, his therapist said, maybe you could just present it to him as, my father did something really bad to me that really hurt me and affected me. It's affected me my whole life, and I'm working on healing and getting better, but I'm not comfortable talking to you about it just yet. So I think that me at least giving him some information and not all of the information allows him to not let his child brain and imagination go wild. And I think the biggest mistake that was done to me as a child, which is why I ended up turning into a people pleaser, and I think a lot of people in my generation, maybe even my mother's generation, did that because our brain, or we do that, like we don't allow children, what was done to us, we don't want to do to our children, or at least I know my generation, because I hear more of my friends talk about it. But I think all of us became people pleasers because we never knew everything that was going on unless we were nosy. And even if we were nosy and we were like ear hustling, we only got bits and pieces. Because we were children and nobody explained to us the bits and pieces that we got, we allowed our own imagination to take it wherever it took it, and we didn't even know everything that was going on. So I remember so many things happening and never fully understanding it. And that's why, like I said, with my children, I do try to be as truthful as possible. If they ask me questions, I do not lie to my kids. However, sometimes the truth is something that they should not know just yet. So I give the truth, but I word it in a way that I'm not giving direct truth, if that makes sense. I don't even know how to give an example right now, but that part. But I know that when I came back from my father's house and I was around my family, my cousins treated me like a burden, like someone who wasn't related to them. Like, why is she here? Great, this girl. And I know that I got special treatment for a while in the beginning because of what happened to me. And I think everyone in my family, like the adults, felt guilty and felt bad. Because not necessarily because they could have controlled it, because they couldn't. Like, it wasn't their fault. It wasn't even my mom's fault. She made a mistake and a poor choice, and she thought she was doing something good. And because she was under the influence, her decisions were not fully thought out. But because of the special treatment, and because I was very fortunate living with my grandmother. So I know because I lived with my grandmother and my grandfather, and because of what happened to me, I was spoiled. Not spoiled too much to where I was this bratty, horrible kid, because from what I was told, I was not. But from what some of my cousins have told me, I was. When I look at my children now, I think to myself, I don't consider myself too spoiled. I mean, my kids too spoiled. I do consider them spoiled. But I don't consider them too spoiled, if that makes sense. And they're little brats. So I don't feel that necessarily I was a spoiled brat. I just feel that I was a kid who had a lot of trauma that happened to her and liked the attention that she was getting because she was tired of being hurt and isolated. Mind you, I was molested for almost 4 years, 3.5, 4 years. I don't know the exact time. I have not been able to find the transcripts of the court. I know on my father's side of the family, they have them, and I want one, but I don't know how to ask for it because I feel if I ask for it, it's opening wounds that they may not be comfortable with and that they kind of shut out. Like, they have never told me that I was a liar or anything like that now that they're in my life. But I think they kind of want to forget it and want to just move on. And I don't feel that I should push them or force them to do something that they want to forget. I mean, if you think about it, it's their brother, and for some cousins, it's their uncle. And I don't know how long they had this thought in their mind that he wasn't that person to only find out that he was. Do I have to shield them from it? No. Is that my responsibility? No. Is it part of being a people pleaser? Maybe. I feel that part of being a people pleaser comes from fear of losing people, which is abandonment issues. I feel like they go hand in hand. I constantly tried to please those around me so I would not lose them. So my mindset was, if you like me and I do everything that you want me to do, you're not going to leave me and I won't feel abandoned and alone. But I will say it hurts when it's relatives. It hits you different. Because I'm not sure about every culture that there is out there, but in my culture, like being Hispanic, Puerto Rican, you put this label on family where it's like blood is thicker than water. And you have this false image in your head that everyone is going to protect you. And then when what happens to you, it's like, well, technically what happened to me, it wasn't in their care. Because I didn't live with my mom's family when that happened to me. I was around them sometimes for visiting, but I'm pretty sure he didn't do what he would do when they were around. I do know that he did it in my aunt's house when we would stay over there, and he would lock us in the room and do it, which I think I've said before is just so bold. How do you molest a child in another person's house? Like I still am trying to understand that. Like I can't grasp it fully. And to be honest, I don't think I'll ever fully understand it because it's not something I would do. So I feel that sometimes it's hard to understand things that you wouldn't do. So I know that with my cousins, when I was around them, I'd be able to like I think that's also something that we do when you're a people pleaser. You kind of learn how to read energy and kind of like read the room. And when you look at people and you see their reaction towards you, right when you enter the room or when you've been around them, even when you're talking, like you feel that negative energy, you feel it. It like almost drains you and you don't understand why you feel that weight. And I'm doing this because I just remember relatives being on my right side, but it could be because my right side, I'm dominant, is my dominant side is my right side. But I remember giving them my things. Like, here, you want to play with this? Or you want to have this? Or you could have this, just don't tell grandma that I gave it to you. In hopes that they would like me. Or they would say like, do you have this? And I'm like, no, but I can ask grandma to get it for me and then I can give it to you. Like, I remember that. And for some, they'd get what they want and then that was it. And then they treat me like shit later. So I don't want to cry. I'll mess this up. It's almost like when I start talking about things, it correlates with other things and then other things and other things. And then you're just like, this is why I'm so this is me laughing is me trying not to cry. So sorry, I'm deflecting a little bit. So when you are mistreated by relatives and you are raised to think that relatives have your best interest and would protect you by any means necessary, when those people who you put on this ladder, like on this pedestal, use you and manipulate you and take advantage of you and hurt you, even if they didn't do any of those things to you, they just hurt you. Like, your existence around them is a burden and they don't want to deal with it. You learn to accept that behavior from other people. And I didn't know until the relationship with actually my first boyfriend. Then there was my second boyfriend and then my third boyfriend, who I'm married to now. But he was not the best person in the beginning of our relationship. And my first boyfriend was not bad. Towards the end, he started making poor choices, and me being a people pleaser, I put myself in a situation I shouldn't have. And when I realized that I was in not a good situation, I removed myself and I thought, let me be honest, because I always thought being honest was the right thing to do. And I learned really quickly at that point, around that age, which was 15, 16, that it doesn't always work that way, which sucks. And then my second boyfriend was not a horrible person, but he wasn't a great person either. But as I got older, I had that empathy and I was able to say, well, their life wasn't so great, or look at what their life is like, or they don't have this understanding, or they didn't have therapy. I constantly made excuses for others' poor behaviors towards me. And it was almost as like I was justifying how they were treating me because they had such a shitty life. And I remember with my cousins, I was guilty of allowing them to treat me a certain way because I remember telling myself, I still have it better than they do. Like, they had a lot to deal with their parents, or lack thereof for some of them, or one parent or two parents that were not functioning correctly. So when I looked at their lives, even with being kidnapped twice and being molested and going to foster care, and then having to go in and out of living with my mom, like just there for the summers, my life was still better than theirs because of what they had to go through. Like, they went through a lot. And I remember I justified their behavior towards me because of what they went through. Now, what I will say is their behavior was based on what they went through and the life that they had. And their jealousy, resentment, or anger towards me was also because of, I do know that the adults around them would talk about me, because I ended up finding this out years later. You know, sometimes when people drink too much, they decide to be honest with you. And because you're an adult, they just want to tell you, you know, this is why I was like this towards you. And I remember being like this. Or my cousins have even been like, you know, some of them have matured enough to where they've talked to me and they're like, I used to feel like this about you or towards you. And my mom used to say this. So then I would, you know, jump on the bandwagon and all of us would get around each other and talk about you. And it sucks because you start to feel like, does that shit ever fucking change? Like, I've had groups of friends that I was close to that one person ends up telling me I was the topic. Why? What was said about me? And the things that have been said about me is spoiled brat. I hate this. I've been whitewashed, bougie. You think you're better than us. You think, or you think you look better than us. And that was never the case. I will say that I never thought I was ugly. I've always thought that I had a pretty face. I was always self-conscious about my teeth, but I never thought that I looked better than any of my cousins or anyone in my family. But I will say, I think we all resemble each other. Now that I've met my father's side of the family, I feel like I resemble them more. I have an aunt that I resemble a lot, and she was the first one that reached out to me that I spoke to. Absolutely adore her. She's stunning. She's beautiful. She's definitely high maintenance. So that's probably why I guess in some ways I'm similar to her. But I was always considered the black sheep in the family. And the thing is, I think people have always been threatened by me. And I don't like to say that lightly, because I think people can assume that when you say, like, why are you threatened by me? They're going to assume that, like, I think they're jealous of me. No, I don't think that at all. I just think that some people get a feeling from me, my energy or my presence, where it doesn't necessarily threaten their presence, but I could see right through them. And a lot of times when I could see right through someone, I'm not going to call you out. I'm just going to avoid it, especially now with my healing. I'm going to be like, yeah, nice to meet you. I'm gonna go over here. I always run into people that are just like, do you want to, let's switch phone numbers? And I'm like, ugh. But I'm still a people pleaser to where I won't say no. And there's been a good amount of people that I did not want to give my phone number to, like did not. And now I'm learning to set boundaries. I'm getting a little bit better. I want to get to know somebody more. I want to know, like, if it's on social media or something and you get like really close to someone. I've been close to a few people like on my IG and stuff that have followed me for years, but I never had like one-on-one talking with them. And then when we start, and then it gets to a point where I'm like, hey, you know what? If they ask me for my phone number, I don't mind. We would have such good conversations. So there's a good amount of people now that I have phone numbers, and we send random memes or messages to each other. But that's one of my things that I'm working on, being able to say no. But it was really sad growing up, being the black sheep of the family. And I think when I say like they were not, again, I don't know if I'm using the words correctly. So if I'm not, definitely let me know. I made them uncomfortable. And when they would have certain topics or conversations, I was that person that I'm an over communicator. Is that even a thing? Is it? Is it a thing? Can you truly over communicate? I can understand if you could talk too much. Guilty. But can you be an over communicator? Like, I rather know everything than only know half of it or get half of the story. Like, I want to know. Don't you want to know? Why would you not want to know? That gets me. I think people who don't like people who over communicate were those kids that were told to shut up and not communicate. So they got used to not, and now they're kind of like, because their parents were annoyed when they would communicate, they get annoyed with, it's that like ripple effect, and it just keeps on going. And lovely how our families and parents screw us up. But it always hurt my feelings. I mean, hurt my feelings when I was made to feel a certain way, or when someone from a group would come and tell me like, "Oh yeah, so they were talking about this, and then you gave like a solution." I gave a solution, and I was talked about. Well, why don't you stop doing that then if it's not working for you? You're telling a group of people something that you've done over and over and over again, and you're complaining that it's not worked. And what I said is, maybe try something different. Maybe see how they're feeling. Like, what are they going through? Have you checked to see like where they're at mentally? And they just left it. It was a small conversation, no big. But when I was gone, oh yeah. It was, what is wrong with her? And why would she even take that person's side? And how dare she? And how could she? She always thinks she's better than us, or she always thinks that she knows more than us. No, I was just giving a suggestion to another option, because if you're going to stay and you're not going to leave, and you're going to stay in a shitty situation and shitty things keep on happening, why would I not suggest that you do something else? But if you just wanted me to be there and you just wanted me to listen, you should have started off that way. Just an opinion. Just an observation. Hey, you know what, you guys? I want to have lunch with you, or I want us to go out to dinner. I want us to have a few drinks. I'm going to talk to you guys. I really don't want any advice. I don't need any feedback. I just want to be listened to. By all means, girl, let it rip. Let it out. That's totally fine. But the thing is, there are so many people out there who don't like, if you're not going to say what they want to hear, they're not going to like what you have to say. And that's not how friendships should work. Mind you, these people really aren't in my life anymore. So, but that's happened to me with my relatives, where because I am emotionally intelligent, and I say that because I've had multiple therapists tell me that. So at a certain point, I'm like, you know what? I'm pretty emotionally intelligent, and I don't care what anybody says. If I've had 5 different freaking licensed people tell me that I am. Can't even try to take that from me. You can try, but I'm not going to listen to you. Why? Because I'm emotionally intelligent, and I know you're doing it because you're trying to hurt me. So it's not going to work. So, but yeah, it hurts. It sucks. But I do know that that's where a lot of my people pleasing came from my childhood. I had a fear of being left. I had a fear of being abandoned. I don't have that anymore, which shows me that I have a lot of growth, because if somebody leaves me, you're lost, because I actually value myself. You'll notice that if you are a people pleaser and you start to work on yourself as an individual, you put up with less. And when I say less, I mean like way less. You start to feel like you're setting boundaries, and you have more self-respect, and you respect others, but you respect yourself more. And that's where it changes. When you're a people pleaser, everyone else is more important to you than you are. But when you start to learn about yourself and learn that it's healthy to set boundaries and not allow people to hurt you or disrespect you or anything for that matter, something that you're not comfortable with, you have the right to just remove yourself. And you have the right to say, yeah, I'm not comfortable with this. I'm going to remove myself. The minute you do that, no matter how much of a people pleaser you are, the people that are not meant to be in your life will slowly remove themselves. And what you need to understand is it's okay. It is okay if out of the only 5 people that you talk to, none are left. Because somehow the universe has a way of bringing the right people back to you. Or the people that should have met you meet you at the time they're supposed to meet you. Because sometimes these people that are meant to be in your lives later on are going through their own healing, so they don't bring their baggage into your life. And if you're trying to work on your baggage and somebody else is trying to work on their baggage, sometimes those two baggages don't go well together. But when they start to release some of it, meeting that person and you guys doing it together or understanding it together, whether it's a relationship or a friendship or even an acquaintance, someone that's a coworker that you can have a good conversation with, you start to view things differently. You start to view yourself differently. And that, my friends, is what I mean when I say that it is so important to start. I feel like when you are a people pleaser, the best thing you could do to start, it's a process, is to start setting boundaries. You know what I mean? Example. If someone calls you and asks you to do something, and you know this person has never been there for you the way you have been there for them, and they ask you to do something, and you get this feeling of, I really don't want to do this. Don't do it. Say no. Just try it. Just try it. Just try it. Just try it. I promise you, a few days, maybe even a few weeks, you're going to feel like, okay, you're going to want to call them after a few days later, a week later. You're going to want to check on them. Did you get somebody to help you? Did you need somebody? Do you still need some help? Because maybe I can help you now. Don't do it. Just try it once. Once, please, just try it once. And let me know how you feel. Down there. Let me know how you feel. Did you feel sick? Did you feel nauseous? Did you get anxiety? Did you have a panic attack? Did you feel scared and anxious right after you did it? And then how did you feel later? Did it get easier or did it stay really bad? Because the first few times I did it, I felt sick for a while. Like really, I did. Because I set the boundary with my grandmother. And it was because she wanted me to do something for my brother. And my brother's a grown-ass man. So for me, I was just like, I'm taking you to do this to help you out with what I need to do for you. And you're having me help you do something for my brother when he's a grown-ass man. So I had to, Al-Anon helped me with this as well. I had to recognize that I can't tell her what to do for my brother and what not to do for my brother. That is her choice. If she chooses to help him and enable him in any way or do what she wants to do because she loves him and she cares about him and he's going to take full advantage, I can't judge him and I can't judge her. But what I can do is make it a point to set my own boundaries. So I literally said, Grandma, I love you. And anything that you need help with that is for you, I will help you. But after today, going forward, please do not ask me to do anything to help anybody else other than you, because I feel that everybody else is handy capable of doing what they need to do for themselves. And she just looked at me. And let me tell you, when you're Hispanic and your grandma raised you, shit, even if she didn't raise you, you're like, okay. And I just remember she just put her head down and she was writing a money order and she's like, está bien, which is, it's fine. And I was like, okay. Like I needed another confirmation because I thought she didn't hear me. And I was just like, okay. And she's like, yeah, mommy, that's fine. And I'm like, oh, okay. And then I helped her pay some bills and we did what we needed to do. And then we got back, she got me something to eat. And I was just like, this feels so weird. So I'm letting you know that's what's going to happen. It felt really weird to hang out with her after I set a boundary. It almost felt like something's going to go wrong. And it didn't. And then I gave her a kiss and I let her go. And I was like, after I leave, it's going to start. She's going to not call me. I'm not going to hear from her for a few days. It's, oh my God. I even told my therapist, I called and I was like, I did what you told me to do. And I don't know why I did it because now I feel sick to my stomach. And he's like, just let it go. And then the next day she was like, hi, Mamita, I need to go do this and this and that. And it's only for me. So can you help me? And I was just like, yeah, I'll be over there in like 20 minutes. And from that point forward, she never asked me to help her to do anything for anyone else but her or my grandfather. The weight that was lifted. And then I thought to myself, do you know how many years ago I could have said this? How many years ago I could have just set my boundaries and I didn't? And then there was another time. So this is another example before I get off, because this is already long. Sorry, not sorry. There were times that people would call me, and I don't like to lie. And after 2011, I think it was 2010 or 2011, I promised myself that I wasn't going to lie to people anymore. I wasn't a huge liar, but I could lie. And it was those lies where it was just like, do you want to come over? And I was just like, no, I have this, and this and that to do. And I felt like if I explained that I had a whole bunch of things to do, that people wouldn't dislike me or think that I dislike them, because I never wanted to feel that way. But sometimes I just didn't want to go out or go anywhere or do anything. Or sometimes I didn't want to be around that person and their energy, because I knew that it required a lot of my energy and I didn't want to do that. So the next time someone asked me to do something, she was like, hey girl, we're doing this at my place. We're going to start, like, people are going to start coming over on this time. Did you want to come over? And I just sat there and I was like, I don't want to. But then I also thought to myself, what lie can I tell that's believable, that they won't question and won't think that I'm lying, so I can get out of it? And then I thought to myself, wait, this is what I'm going through in therapy right now. I'm not supposed to do that. I'm supposed to tell my truth. So I said, hey Ma, thanks for the invite. I kind of want to be lazy and stay at home today. And she was like, I totally get you, girl. Don't even worry about it next time. What? So I could have always said how I felt with people, and the ones that didn't like it didn't really need to be in my life anymore, and the ones that understood it really understood it. You'd be surprised with how many people think the same way that you do, but you don't allow yourself to do those things because you overthink everything. Yeah, that's going to be next week's too. Overthinker. I am an overthinker. Like, I don't know if it's a Virgo thing or a Leo thing, and I'm a Leo and a Virgo. August 23rd, I'm a cusper, but holy shit. When I tell you I'm an overthinker, I am an overthinker. So those were things that I started doing little by little. And now I don't feel uncomfortable. It took a while. I mean, years. But I haven't really lied. And I mean, there's been like little ones here and there, and then I'll catch myself. I'm like, ew, you're not that person. You don't lie. So I'm learning. It's a work in progress. But stay tuned for next week, where we talk about shit I just forgot. Setting boundaries. Are we going to do that one? Because that's not what I was thinking, but we're going to just... So, I hope everyone has an amazing week. Happy hump day. I am now 42 minutes into this video. I will be editing a little bit, but not that much. So, while you're doing mom duties, wife duties, daughter duties, sister duties, any type of duty that we're doing. But everyone have an amazing rest of your Wednesday, and I will talk to you guys later.